We got more roster moves, and Kyle Meinke going to join us today from M Live.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It is another episode of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day on a Wednesday, August 30th and a Thursday, August 31st. Lions starting to get their practice squad together, adding some more players, making some more roster moves. We'll get into all of it today with Kyle Meinke, Lions beat writer for MLive.com. We'll do that momentarily. We'll tell you about the kicking situation, an additional running back. No news as of 5:20 right now on Craig Reynolds. Come on, Craig. Oh man, he's still fighting Debo right now. But we'll keep you posted on everything. Thanks for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Lions today is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Follow us on Twitter, or X, as you could call it, at Dery Speaks, at Locked On Lions, Threads at The Real Matt Dery, Matt Dery Facebook fan page, and also on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Thanks for subscribing and watching. All right, before we get to Kyle Meinke, and I recorded Kyle earlier today, so there were some things that we didn't get to, but news of the day is that the Lions continue to tinker with their practice squad, with their roster. Let's start with this. No surprise, Starlin Thomas, who had a really, really good training camp in preseason, was claimed off of waivers by the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, the same Arizona Cardinals, by the way, they're going to be in some big trouble because reports now are surfacing that their former GM, Steve Keim, when he was suspended, their interim head coach, Steve Wilks, was given a burner phone by the organization to continue to talk to Keim while he was suspended. And one of the names mentioned in the story by ESPN is Lions COO Mike Disner, who at the time was working for the Cardinals and supposedly was the one that gave the burner phone to the coach to use to illegally chat and text with the suspended general manager. I'll get to that another time. But the Cardinals pick up Starlin Thomas today, the Lions cornerback who was waived and did not make the roster yesterday. So a good pickup for the Cardinals and Thomas. We knew somebody that the Lions were getting rid of was going to get picked up. As far as practice squad, the Lions have confirmed Dylan Drummond, Maurice Alexander, Coyote Owasika, Connor Galvin, Chris Smith, Trevor Nowaski, Chase Lucas, awesome news that he's back, Brandon Joseph are all in the practice squad, along with, are you ready for this? Yes, the return of the Money Badger. Yes, Michael Badgley's back. After tryouts with the Commanders and Titans, he's back on that practice squad. So, woo, the kicking circus and carousel rolls along down at 222 Rodwood Drive. So Badgley is back. Also, according to agent Mike McCartney, Zonovan Bam Knight from the Jets, ex of the Jets, one of their backup running backs last year, did not make the team, but Bam Knight, running back, is on the practice squad. That's a nice pickup for the Lions. They're going to need backs. They only have 2 right now on the active roster. So as of right now, that is your practice squad. So the Lions have 11 players there, including Max Percher, who's an international player and offensive tackle. So he does not count against the 16-man practice squad as an international pathways exemption. So technically the Lions have 6 more spots to free up on their practice squad. But I love that Dylan Drummond's back. I love that Chase Lucas is back. That's huge. But again, we're waiting to see what's going on with Craig Reynolds. And if the team adds any more receivers, we'll see what happens with Chase Cota, who right now has been waived, injured. And if there will be any players, Julian Okwara or anything added to the injured reserve. If you're added to short-term injured reserve now, your roster spot gets freed up. You're out 4 weeks, and then the Lions can add some more players. So they're continuing to do that right now, and that's kind of the story in Allen Park, at least at the moment. Not a surprise that Badgley is back. Lions have gone through 11 kickers. Badgley's been on the team like 3 times, so just like Riley Patterson. So we'll have to see on that. We're going to talk to Kyle Meinke momentarily and get more on what he thinks the Lions are up to in terms of their roster and anything else. But first, as we told you about earlier, LinkedIn Jobs, they're the best. Every new potential hire can feel like a high stress and high stakes wager for your small business. That is why you want to be 100% accurate. You want to get it right. And the best qualified candidates available, you want at your fingertips, right? That's why I have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I've used it before, still use it for hiring at my office. Add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. And you got simple tools, screening questions and all that they do for you at LinkedIn Jobs. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality candidates and hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, as promised, I always love checking in with this guy, longtime Lions beat writer at MLive.com, one of the best there is. Kyle Meinke is with us today here on Locked On Lions. Kyle, great to see you, brother.
It's good to see you, Matt. It's days like this where that long-time Lions beat writer feels like a long-time Lions beat writer. It was a long day on cut day.
You know, these last 48 hours have got to be kind of crazy for someone that covers the team because there's no set way of doing this, and you're refreshing Twitter and you're talking to agents and I'm sure other people, your sources, but it can't be easy for you.
No, it's not. First of all, you're seeing a lot of guys that you've gotten to know and some of whom you've gotten to respect, lose their jobs. And Starlin Thomas is a good example for me coming to the Lions. I really respected his game and his fit for Detroit. Ultimately, though, he was, I would think probably the first guy out. Given their numbers at cornerback, they really liked the way a couple of guys finished the preseason, including another undrafted guy, Stephen Gilmore, Khalil Dorsey. You can't keep everyone with Emmanuel Mosley coming off PUP. Someone had to go. And it was a guy you really respect and a guy who played really well. I know the Lions were expecting to get him on the practice squad. Arizona claimed him on waivers, so he's gone. And a guy you've spent months working with is wearing a different uniform. So it's hard from a team perspective, hard from a player perspective, and for a beat writer who's sitting in a windowless office for 12 hours, it's a tough day for me too.
Yeah, you kind of had a feeling Arizona would grab somebody from the Lions. I mean, that Cardinals roster. I mean, I'm surprised Arizona hasn't picked up Justin Rogers yet.
Have you seen Justin's 40 time?
Hey, he's a top flight chef, at least.
Yeah, it's true. Follow him on Instagram. You'll get, it's just.
There it is.
Exactly.
There it is. All right. But in all seriousness, this has been a nice thing for the Lions because you look at a Starlin Thomas. They had tough decisions to make, which means they have talent, Kyle, right?
Exactly right, Matt. I mean, this is a conversation I've been having all week, and Ben Raven and I talked about our podcast too. It's like there's been a lot of years where it's like you can basically pick 52, 53 of the spots on the roster. And it's because they have guys who look like they're ready for the NFL and guys who look like they don't. And this is like what you saw from the Lions this year is what good teams do. You're cutting good players. Like Starlin Thomas makes this team 70% of the time. In my years on the beat, I've seen guys worse than him make the team. And it's not just his ability, but it's his temperament too. The way he played, he's the aggressive Jerry Jacobs type. Like that guy is making this team 2 years ago, guaranteed. And it just didn't happen this year for him because you have 7 guys in front of him at cornerback that provide more on defense or special teams. And that's a good place to be in if you're Detroit.
Kyle Meinke with us, MLive.com, Dungeon of Doom podcast. Got to give it a shout out. Kyle and Ben do a great job, get some great guests, and check that out as well wherever you get your podcasts. How much fun are you guys having doing that, by the way? You guys do a good job. I like it.
After the first few months, Matt, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, it's a totally different medium than writing. So it took us some time to settle in individually and of course together as well. But yeah, over the last year or so, it's been really fun and kind of like especially in season, Matt, we try to use it as like we try to cover or talk to people the kinds of stories that you don't get to write about. It's kind of like an extra page in your notebook, and then you just get to like talk about it with somebody. And so we've used it kind of for that, and it's been kind of a different way to talk about the team, and we've really enjoyed it.
You and I are recording a little bit early today. Any surprise cuts, moves, anything that did surprise you from what the Lions did yesterday?
Well, 2 running backs is a surprise for anyone, especially a team that wants to control games on the ground. They were very effective last year on the ground. It was the best season since Barry was still around, which is a long time ago. And you have all the money you put in David Montgomery. You have the high draft pick and Jimmy Gibbs. So they're obviously highly invested in the running game. You don't really expect them to go into a season with 2 running backs. And I still don't expect them to, Matt. I think that we'll see another shoe drop. I mean, it could happen before this thing gets to the public. Things are moving really fast in the NFL right now. Could be Craig Reynolds coming back. He can sign with anyone he wants. And sometimes there's a handshake agreement in place with a veteran like him, where they can come back after a subsequent move, like a Julian Okwara maybe going to an injured list, for example, which I don't know if that's happening, but it's a possibility with what he's dealing with. So, and it could be someone on the waiver wire. It could be someone, well, not the waiver wire. The Lions didn't claim anyone. They weren't awarded anyone, but it could still be somebody in free agency the Lions bring in as well.
29 on offense, or 21 on offense, 29 on defense. That's not going to stay the same, obviously, right?
I don't think so. I think like I said, I think we're going to see at some point maybe a subsequent move with Julian Okwara, a pass rusher, where they're really deep. They kept 12 defensive linemen and edge rushers. I've never seen that, but I think it is a testament to some of the depth we've seen. I still kind of question their top end talent. We like Aiden Hutchinson a lot, obviously, but is Charles Harris really back? How good is Josh Pascal going to be? There's some things to like about those guys, but there's some unprovenness around Aiden Hutchinson. But in terms of the sheer depth, the number of bullets they can throw at an offense, it's as deep as I've ever seen in Detroit. And so it's not a huge shock to see them go deep at that position, but 12 defensive linemen and edge rushers, 11 defensive backs, 6 linebackers. Maybe they do trim back at some point going into opening day.
Do you think the organization thinks as highly of James Houston as the fans do?
No. And I don't mean that in a derogative sense. I just mean it in a fit sense. We saw James Houston last year. What was it? 7 sacks in 8 games, 8 sacks in 7 games. It's not something like that. It was ridiculous. Yeah. It was an NFL record. We've never seen it before. He's clearly got a skill set. But it's really, it's such a niche thing what he does. He's obviously a skilled pass rusher, but he doesn't really do anything else. And the Lions spent this offseason really trying to convert him to Sam linebacker. We saw him dropping into coverage, doing all kinds of things that a linebacker is supposed to do. And Matt, I just didn't see at the end of the day a Sam linebacker. I just think he's a situational pass rusher. And I really thought he might be a trade candidate, given that, like I said, the depth they have at that position. Maybe they would get more value in getting something in return rather than playing him 8 snaps a game or something. I don't know what his role is going to look like. Given the numbers at the position, I wouldn't be totally shocked to see him inactive, like a healthy scratch. Maybe not every week, but certain weeks where he's not in the game plan as a situational pass rusher. And I just don't think he's really a true fit for the Aaron Glenn defense, but he has a skill set at such an important position as a pass rusher. He'll get out there in those kinds of situations.
It's interesting because, like I said, I think from a hype standpoint, and certainly, like you said, numbers put up a lot, but there's a lot of traffic at that position, including Romeo Crennel. I thought your piece earlier this summer was great with him, and you're rooting for him after reading what you got to sit down with him and he was dropping all these F-bombs, but I enjoyed it. That's a guy that, man, what a story. And I'm glad he's healthy.
Well, thanks for shouting out the story. It's one of the ones I really enjoyed writing, this year, just kind of getting to know a guy beyond just a press conference or saying what's up in a locker room. I got to go out to his place on a lake, and beautiful place, Matt, as you can imagine, but it's like really Romeo style too, as like a guy who's just really into the arts and stuff. And he was able to, in that kind of environment, really open up in a way that we've never seen in his career in Detroit. And he went through a lot of stuff in the last 2 years that just didn't get said because he's such a private guy, including that he went through a second Achilles surgery, which is a big reason why it took him, I guess, like probably about 14, 15 months to get back onto the field. It explains a lot about his long return. I think there was some concern that maybe he just didn't have it anymore. And once we understood that there was a second surgery and there's a good reason why it took him so long to get back on the field, I think it supplied more evidence that maybe he was on his way back, as the coaches had been saying. And we did see in camp, I think it was a slow start for him. I saw that when the story came out, it made me a little nervous that maybe I was writing too much about a guy that was kind of coming on slower. But in the last 2 weeks, we saw a lot more from him, and I thought he sewed up his spot on the roster nicely, and will come off the bench this year behind Charles Harris and Aiden Hutchinson.
More with Kyle Meinke, MLive.com, Dungeon of Doom podcast. We'll do that coming up next. We're going to tell you about our friends at Marg Sparkling Margaritas. You guys know, love a good drink, especially after work and after doing the podcast late in the day. Forget White Claws, forget High Noons. Margs are the best. Sparkling margarita crafted with real Blanco tequila. Clean, crisp, genuinely tastes so good. Check out their website at sipmargs.com to find that retailer nearest you. 5 unique flavors, something for everybody. That's SIPmargs, MARGS.com to find a retailer near you. Must be 21 and over to enjoy. Cheers, and please drink responsibly. Kyle Meinke, you back with us, MLive.com. How many years is this now for you covering this this outfit, Kyle?
This is my 11th season.
What?
I know.
That's insane.
I'm an old guy now. Old guy.
But you're enjoying it. Like being around Dan Campbell and this group has been great. I mean, gosh, before this it was horrible, but this has got to be fun for you now, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're catching me after a 20-hour day yesterday, so it's hard to feel the joy right now beyond the pain and the just disgusting nature of my existence. But no, this is a fun year. It's been a really wild year after all these years of covering a team that just perpetually disappointed. To see fans so genuinely excited and to see the expectation, then to go to camp and like to see why the expectation could be for real. And I don't know if that. I mean, it's the NFL. You never really know what you're going to see. Jared Goff could get hurt on the first play, the first game. But, when I go out to camp, Matt, to see, I just haven't seen this kind of depth before, ever. And we'll see how far it takes them. I think the North is there for the taking, as we all know. And I just see a really deep team. And to see a team that could really make some noise this year is, as a Lions beat writer, is very unfamiliar territory.
When you hear people say Brian Branch could end up being the best player on this defense, is that like, do you laugh or do you go, no, that's possible?
I go premature, but it's not impossible. I'll put it that way. That's probably the best way to put it. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson's a nice player. I think Kirby Joseph is going to be a very nice player this year. Cedric Gardner-Johnson had unbelievable days in camp. Brian Branch had unbelievable days in camp. And unlike most other guys on the team, Brian Branch affected the offense in every possible way a slot cornerback can, picking off the pass in the back end, making plays in the box, hunting down ball carriers, sacking quarterbacks. I mean, he did all of it at some point in camp. There were days where he did all of it in a single practice. It was really an unbelievable performance from Brian Branch. I don't know what that means for, I keep hearing every time I turn on the radio, it's, Brian Branch for Defensive Rookie of the Year. It's, I think, hard for a slot cornerback to be up for those kind of awards. You need to pick off a lot of passes unless you're Sauce Gardner. I don't know how many picks Brian Branch will have, but we did see a guy in camp, Matt, that was just unbelievable in all the ways, including generating the takeaway.
How concerned are you with the receiver room? Are they done? And obviously the Jamison Williams situation, I know your email and Twitter blows up for JMO stuff, but when you look at it big picture, what do you think?
I've never seen my email or my Twitter blow up like it does for JMO. I mean, even like the most innocent tweet about Jamison Williams drops pass, I could tweet that out and I'll get 100 comments that are trashing me. And it's like, hey, I'm just standing on the sideline, like tweeting about like what he did. Like, if you get upset, take it out on JMO or whatever. But my concern for the room at receiver is relatively low. I mean, the offense is so well baked. It's so balanced. There's so many playmakers. Amon-Ra St. Brown leading the way, obviously, at receiver. But Sam Laporta, I mean, he was fantastic in camp as well. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be really involved in the passing game. There's a lot of guys who can catch passes who aren't just receivers. And then you do have the receivers like Josh Reynolds, Marvin Jones, Khalif Raymond, who I think is still criminally underrated. So, you really are going to miss the explosiveness of JMO, and there's no disputing that. This offense will be better with JMO in the arsenal. But they do have, I think, enough weaponry at hand to get by for 6 weeks. And I don't know how many wins that translates to. I don't know if it translates to a win on opening night. You're better off with JMO. I'm not putting it any other way. But they do have depth at receiver and in the passing game at large.
What about this kicking situation? I mean, that's where I get hit. People hate on me, but you just list the names. I mean, it's 11 names. Now, well, Badgley now for the 15th time, but like, come on, Brad Holmes done such a great job. Why can't they figure this out?
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem across the league unless you find your guy and roll with him for 15 years. But, I think that, like, I understand when Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell took over that they were in a different place then. They were in the beginning stages of a rebuild and paying Matt Prater whatever it was going to cost. I don't remember what it was, $3-4 million a year. Like, it doesn't really make sense to pay that much for a kicker in a year where you're going to win 2, 3, 4 games. So I understand it from that perspective, but you did let a great kicker just walk out the door without even pursuing him. And since then, I think it's up to 11 guys, maybe 12.
Yeah,
and they're currently
11.
on the trade block trying to find a guy to replace Riley Patterson, who won, quote unquote, the job in camp. But like we saw him in the preseason finale, like I would say he's a pretty consistent guy inside 50 yards. Like I wouldn't be too concerned about Riley Patterson missing a bunch of extra points like he did in the finale. But what you saw in the 53-yarder that came up short, that is Riley Patterson. That's why he didn't get the job the first time he was in Detroit. It remained the thing with him in Jacksonville. And in camp, we saw it too. There were certain days where you saw a bigger leg maybe, but I wouldn't rely on him beyond 52, 53 yards. And as a title contender like Detroit aspires to be, really hard to go into a season feeling good about your chances without a kicker who can make a kick beyond 50 yards.
Final thing for Kyle, when you look at the division, how do you, I know you're going to write about it, but give us a sneak preview. How do you rank one through 4 right now?
Oof. You're putting me on the spot. I haven't gotten to that part in my preparation. I think the Lions win the division. I think the Lions win the division, though. I've been out on that limb already. I can't remember if I picked 10 or 11 wins, but I mean, I just watch this team every day. They're really deep. I think they're really well coached. They fit their coach really well. They've got something to them that's bigger than the sum of their parts, and that's not really something I've seen in Detroit before. The defense is much improved. I think the offense might take a little bit of a step back just based on what I saw in camp. I don't think they really found that groove they had last year, but I think that they'll be very good and very deep, especially in the passing game, and the defense is much better. And to your question about the division, I think the Packers are going to take a step back. I think the Vikings were fraudulent last year, and the Bears are the Bears. I mean, I don't know. I think they're still a couple of years away. So I think the division is there for the taking for Detroit and how it shakes out behind them. I think Jordan Love is going to be better than a lot of people give him credit for. So maybe Green Bay second, Minnesota third, Chicago fourth, if I'm just going off the cuff here. But I do like the Lions' chances quite a lot.
All right, brother. Great to see you. You keep up the great work. Always love talking to you. Thanks so much.
Always love catching up, Matt. Good to see you.
Kyle Meinke with us, mlive.com and the Dungeon of Doom podcast. This has been a Thursday edition, I should say. Oh, it is Wednesday edition of the Locked On Lions.